Welcome to today's session entitled Cultural Competency and Youth Inclusive Work. This is the fourth session of our Ready to Enhance Project Echo series from Ohio Adult Allies in partnership with the Ohio Center of Excellence for Behavioral Health Prevention and Promotion. This Echo is designed to equip adults supporting youth community leaders with the tools and insights needed to effectively empower youth. Through monthly sessions, this series will address critical topics to enhance communication, foster supportive environments, and build cultural competency while promoting youth leadership and mental well-being. Together, these sessions provide a comprehensive framework for advancing the work of adult allies who seek to encourage youth empowerment. My name is April Schweinhart, and I have the pleasure of supporting this series. For some context, there are approximately 13,000 hubs in over 200 countries, and I am so proud that we are leveraging this model to bring an innovative prevention resource to Ohioans. This Echo Hub is facilitated by team members from Ohio Adult Allies and the Ohio Center of Excellence for Behavioral Health Prevention and Promotion. You can visit each organizational website to learn more about the work. Both the Center and the Ohio Adult Allies initiatives are funded by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and administered by Ohio University's Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Service in partnership with the Pacific Institute of Research and Evaluation, or PIRE. Whether you're new to the Echo model or have experienced one of the center's other Echo sessions, I think it's probably most important to understand the core philosophy of all teach, all learn. In each session, we will start with a subject matter expert providing a didactic on the identified topic. But what makes Echo so special and effective is the core value that everyone in the room has knowledge and experience to make a valuable contribution, and we can all learn for the work of our community members, from the work of our community members. Collectively, the wisdom is already in the room. So why do we use the Echo model? Some of the benefits of Echo are listed on the next slide, and we won't spend too much time talking about it, but I wanted to highlight that this model democratizes information and expertise for the public good. It helps build workforce capacity and ultimately improves outcomes for communities. Some practical tips as we get started today. Please do mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Please turn on your camera if possible. These sessions are really intended to build connections and relationships with our colleagues. I encourage you to use the chat feature throughout the session, particularly if you want to share resources or insights relevant to the discussion, which we will capture and share afterwards. It looks like we've had a wonderful turnout today, so if you would like to join the discussion portions, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. That might be the smoothest option for discussion. Please also turn off any AI note takers, and if you're experiencing any technology issues, please reach out to my wonderful colleague Nancy Clough, who has just put her email in the chat. As the Hub team, we are committed to creating an inclusive environment and providing all necessary accommodations. We will start and end sessions on time and work hard to make good use of your time by providing quality content. The only recorded part of our session will be the didactic presentation today, out of respect for your privacy and the community members you serve. We will also provide continuing education credits, which you can earn by completing the evaluation after this session. We also have a commitment that we ask of from you. Please help us create a safe and respectful learning environment by valuing the opinions of your colleagues, using inclusive language, and protecting the privacy of everyone involved by keeping discussions confidential. We encourage you to be open in sharing your experiences, knowing this is a supportive space. Finally, I do have a reminder for our upcoming sessions. We will have one more session of this Echo, but the date is not yet determined. So please stay tuned and watch the website as we plan to have one more session on media literacy. There is one last chance as well to join our Advanced Prevention Echo on June 20th. And with that, I would like to introduce you to our presenter, Maggie Hermann. Maggie is the Deputy Director of the New Orleans Children and Youth Planning Board, where she focuses on planning projects that center the voices, experiences, and expertise of New Orleans youth to improve processes and outcomes across the many networks of the city's young people move through. She applies narrative change, positive youth development, systems thinking, and human-centered design approaches in the practice of convening people to coordinate solutions, braid wisdom, share power, and amplify joy. She has an academic background in public health and experience in designing, coordinating, documenting, and evaluating civic engagement and resident leadership projects in New Orleans, her political and purposeful home. Welcome, and thank you so much, Maggie.
Sorry, I promised I would be so ready to share, and then I couldn't find my unmute button like it's my first time on Zoom. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for letting me be on this learning journey with you all. It's really inspiring to hear the ways communities come together to share ideas and exchange wisdoms, and particularly exciting for me to talk about that when we're talking about intergenerational learning and collective action and power sharing. As I was introduced, I'm the Deputy Director for the New Orleans Children and Youth Planning Board, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about our work around bringing young people and adults together to really galvanize collective action for the vision and solutions that young people really want to see in their city, and the kind of ways that we do that at we call CYPB is our acronym, or the New Orleans Children and Youth Planning Board. So our purpose and mission is to launch and lead the collaborative formulation of a comprehensive plan of positive youth development services and programs for the children and youth of Orleans Parish. A little bit of background on our structure is that we are authorized by a state law to exist, and a city ordinance to exist. So we land in a quasi-governmental space. There was an unfunded state mandate in Louisiana that says every parish, or we use parish instead of county, every parish would have a children and youth planning board. Because it's unfunded, it kind of depends on the parish's own kind of way of operating on if that board's going to get staffed up. We are lucky enough in New Orleans to have been staffed up. A lot of our funding comes from philanthropy, relationships, and grants, and a little bit from our city each year. And we're a small and mighty team, but a big part of our work is holding this comprehensive plan of positive youth development in New Orleans. This is just a little bit more background on who and how our board exists. There are 25 active members on the board. This is kind of the language through the legislation that says that there will be 25 active members. They should come from these departments in the kind of child and youth services arena across the physical, social, emotional, developmental, behavioral, educational, safety, and poverty landscape of New Orleans. And the way that legislation is set up is really not super youth friendly. It's very systems friendly. And so part of our journey over the years of existing as a board has been trying to shift and share that power so that we're bringing more young people to the table to be part of these planning processes, and then also making sure that our board is ready to be in conversation and active conversation around change making and solution building with our young people. And so we did a dismantling adultism training in 2020, I believe it was, with our board members. So these are like heads of health department or their deputies, the head of our city's Office of Youth and Families, folks who are in the juvenile justice system as judges, or who else is on our board? Our public school leaders. These kinds of folks are in the room, as well as program providers who may operate mental health services, or faith leaders, and community members. When I started at CIPB, there are not a lot of young people in the room. And that was something that our executive director at the time really named as kind of a really clear need, is to shift who and how we're gathering young people, but then, like I said, also the ways that we're connecting adults and young people to be in conversation around solutions and action. And so we did a dismantling adultism training. In that training, we kind of unearth some of the legislation pieces of CYPB that we needed to make real a youth advisory board. We had a youth advisory board at the time because we were about to launch a youth master plan process. The process was going to be for a 10-year plan. And so we were just beginning to start bringing together a youth advisory board, really to be like the youth arm of the steering committee to build out the youth master plan. In that process of the dismantling adultism training, where we were getting trained, we knew that we needed to codify the youth advisory board. So we went through the city, and now the youth advisory board exists as a permanent feature of the Children and Youth Planning Board. And we also ensured that there are 2 youth seats that are part of our city's ordinance of the makeup of our youth advisory or our Children and Youth Planning Board. Part of our work is to plan, to take action, and then to be really this accountability arm of, are we doing the things that we said we would do? Are there ways where we're going to course correct? How do we provide public progress reports? And then always resetting for continuous improvement. And we're constantly trying to figure out how we amplify youth voice in that evaluation and review process. So to date, we've done a youth participatory action or youth participatory action research projects to make sure that young people are embedded in the evaluation of our now 5-year Along the Journey Youth Master Plan. And that's been a really exciting way for us to make sure that young people's voices and experiences are at the forefront of our accountability procedures and ways of operating. Our current projects, this I am going to ask for grace because the slide deck is a little bit outdated, but we're going to rock with it. So the Call to Care report, it was one of our current projects a couple of years ago, and we've since kind of folded it into the Youth Master Plan. But it really was this comprehensive plan on how New Orleans could be a city of compassionate healing. There were a lot of experts that came into the room in kind of between 2017 and 2019 to pull together research and recommendations and an implementation plan that's really focused on compassionate, healing-centered city solutions. Dismantling Adultism is one of our major projects right now. It was a project actually of our Youth Advisory Board who came together to create this toolkit on how organizations can build and maintain youth-centered approaches and practices, really underscored by narrative shift approaches, really underscored by the youth vision that was created at the onset of the Youth Master Plan process. And it's a toolkit that's meant to be put into action with people who have adults and young people at their tables to work through the practices and ways of being together and moving in tandem around decision making and actually codifying and creating practices and policies of that organization to be consistent, be committed to youth voice and youth engagement. So that toolkit is available. I'd be glad to share the link for it. And then, like I said, the Youth Master Plan is kind of the major container and holder of all of the, not just of CYPB, but a citywide approach to connecting resources, to connecting actions, to moving toward this vision that our young people are saying, this is who we are, and this is where we're headed. It's a roadmap, it's our North Star, and we have a lot of great, amazing partners who are committed to the Youth Master Plan. And then also we are continuously building up the bench of folks who kind of see it, understand it, own it. So it exists across 6 different domains that try to capture all of the ways that young people move through the world. And when we started with Youth Master Plan and the process of building out this Youth Master Plan, one of the major things that we thought was really important was to ground in who our young people are, first at just like a population level. So we knew that we needed to be able to tell the story that there are 11,000 young people in New Orleans from birth to 24. They exist across the age range from birth to 24. in these pockets of, or not pockets, but the distribution of young people across the birth to 24 age range is pretty consistently around the 20,000. A lot of times when we're talking about young people, conversations really either center around our maybe birth to five group of young people because we're really focused on early childhood and education, and know that that's a really important place to funnel investments and to really set people up for success early on. But then the conversation might drop off after, well, then when the young person turns 6, how do we know where the resources are? How do we know where the programs are? How do we know that there's continued investment in care beyond age 5? And then alternatively, then when people talk about young people, there's a lot of kind of assumption that we're talking about young people as if they were only ever juvenile in the kind of language of juvenile delinquency or in the language of being associated with crime or at risk of crime. And so a lot of our work is to do narrative shift around, let's talk about young people from a strengths-based perspective, from the place of potential, from the place of healing, from the place of compassion, first and always. And also know that our investments need to match that vision and our practices and policies need to match that vision. So we're constantly ringing the bell of there's 111,000-ish young people in New Orleans. We need to ensure that our investments are matching that number, that we're not only putting investments in smaller pockets like quote unquote crime and safety prevention or early childhood education. So this is kind of the framing of the Youth Master Plan. Again, we really think about it as this comprehensive roadmap. We think about it as a 10-year multi-sector plan for improving outcomes for our children and youth, and then as this tool for coordinated action, for data, for funding, for policy and programs and services that support positive youth development results in New Orleans. When we started this process, like I said, we had a youth advisory board, but they were just forming. They are now fully and in perpetuity a feature of our youth master plan and CYPB. We have a youth development specialist on our staff who holds this group really well and is really committed to the acknowledging and activating the time that it takes to build relationships with the young people that we work with, to doing outreach and engagement across the city so that we're not only getting young people who maybe go to school in the places where our flyer is really being circulated really well, but trying to go to neighborhoods and spaces and places and connect with people where they might not know about us yet or what we do. They might be looking for ways to get engaged in their city. They might know that they have ideas or not, but we want to open up the door for all young people in New Orleans to be part of the conversation around solution building, and then know that there's a home for them here in being involved. And then if it's not with us, for whatever reason, that we're staying connected to our partners and can say, well, they over there have a great policy fellowship that you could join, or this other organization has a really great like affinity group around LGBTQIA spaces. And so we try to stay connected to our partners in that way to make sure that we're constantly sharing opportunities that we know young people are interested in, to get experience and really in that learn and do model where we're doing leadership development, and we're also building spaces for connection and care, and then also trying to activate the changes that our young people are saying they want to see, feel, and hear. So I'm pulling up right now just a little bit of a little bit of a snapshot of one of the categories in the Youth Master Plan, which is Youth Voice. We pulled it out as one of the 6 categories because we knew it needed so much attention and care, but our also way of moving is to find and galvanize youth voice throughout all of the 6 categories of the Youth Master Plan. So we, in our process of building out the youth master plan, had a lot of community conversations that our youth advisory board members led, to ask their peers, to ask the people, the adults who work as their maybe programmatic staff, for different types of agencies and organizations. These questions on what success looks like for young people. At first, we chunked it out by what success looks like for young people across developmental stage, so that we were really thinking about things from a human perspective, not like a sector or a silo perspective. And then all of that really good information and ideas and solutions and visions came together to frame out our issue statement of this is the way we're currently experiencing a lack of youth voice. This is the way we're hearing the narrative told that youth are often seen as a problem rather than partners in the solutions. And that a lot of interventions that exist that are meant to support the building of agency and identity are not all the way aware of or capturing young people's needs and also interests. That's really something that we try to bring into the conversation a lot, is that we're not only talking about needs. Yes, like meeting our young people's needs is so important, and being able to figure out how to make a space that's about leadership or about voice raising that also is meeting the kind of getting to the supportive services side of things is so important. But then we also really want to make space where young people are talking about their goals and their interests and who they want to be and how they want to get there, and what they want their city to be for them. And so from those solutions, or sorry, from those community conversations, we also came up with some goals. So we named that we want to engage young people from a place of partnership, respect, and power sharing. And those are really lovely words, and we get to constantly be working together with our youth advisory board to figure out how and what that looks like. So that really looks like these solutions that we recognize and broaden community wisdom. We provide young people with the civic education necessary to successfully engage in decision making. We're looking to expand meaningful opportunities for youth to be involved in existing decision making and advocacy bodies. And we're ensuring that opportunities for youth leadership and voice are available to all. So these are the solutions that we're working with across our city to ensure that not only us as a board are implementing, but that our board members are taking back to their organization, that they're using, that our board space is a place where other organizations are seeing how our youth advisory board exists, and then using some of those tools to build their own youth advisory boards, and then constantly sharing best practices and being in conversation around what is possible with the youth advisory board, really using and leveraging youth voice to change the way an organization acts internally, and then also have that ripple effect share out beyond. Um, I'm going to skip through this slide because I really want to talk about the Youth Connections podcast the last couple minutes I have. One of major projects of the Youth Master Plan, and that's been held by our youth development specialist, really in leadership of our youth advisory board members, is this Youth Connections podcast. We know podcasts are a hot thing right now. Every organization, I think, will like pop up with one, I'm noticing. But this is really a space where our youth advisory board members are being in real conversations with their peers, or maybe with a adult ally who is a content expert in the thing that they really want to talk about, and sharing their perspectives on a current issue and the way that they want to engage with adults and young people to create a solution in that issue. And it's been a really exciting opportunity to have our young people come together around this narrative that they want to tell, and really bring their true voice to that. And then, like I mentioned, another big body of work that exists that we continue to use and return to is the Dismantling Adultism Toolkit. This was built by youth advisory board members at the time. It has some really clear tips in their own voice and language around what it takes to bring young people to a table, and the types of conversations they want to have, and the types of the ways you set a room up to receive them well, and the ways that you can constantly be in conversation about power sharing. So we know this matters because we have the opportunity to really shift the narrative from deficits to strength. We have a plan that we want to be deliberate, and we want it to include our now space, and then next, and then our long view. Like we want to be really visionary, we want to think big, and we also want to be pragmatic and be results oriented and use data to inform our decision making. And we know that we have the ability and the tools to have young people be the drivers of that. And as adults, it's our role to support them and make space for them, and that they're not doing it alone. And that a lot of times we are getting out of the way so that they can authentically share their ideas and perspectives, but that we're always going to be caring and in relationship with them to do that. These are some of the frameworks that we use. We really think about systems change. We really think about the transformational level of this narrative change piece, but then also the power sharing and the policies and practices to really get to these visible outcomes that we know could be beautiful and wonderful, and in some ways currently exist, in some ways don't. We know that young people don't move through the world in a siloed way. And so we try to connect conversations across all of the organizations that see themselves as existing for economic stability or for health and well-being, and that these solutions are all braided and they can be leveraged together if we know they're together. And we're trying to track results, and we're trying to tell the story of the investments that have been made in young people and the wins that we've had in the past 5 years around activating the solutions that young people have said they wanted and needed, like expanded youth decision making, like trainings on healing centered practices, ensuring sufficient services for parents, and really trying to show when our city is getting it right, when there's the investment that's made that's attached to the goal and the solution that our young people have said, this is what we want to see happen. And we also want to be part of it because we know we have what it takes to bring our story to the table. And we use a collective impact strategy, and we really focus on a learning journey. I think this slide is from an old slide deck, but all those things are true. And with that, I will wrap up by saying thank you so much for hearing about the New Orleans Children Youth Planning Board and the way we've engaged young people in building out a youth master plan, and then also in implementing it, and in really leveraging the tools we have to make change and share the work that we have to do.